Hello. Welcome in again. This is another edition of Musings from the Mountains, our 9th, I believe. The Pac-Man Jones edition. Patrick, we've made it this far.
Made our Everest too.
Yeah. They never said we would. This is our video podcast hosted by WVSports.com. I'm Keenan Cummings, the managing editor. This is my sidekick, Patrick Kotnik. I'm going to go ahead and introduce him myself. I don't know why, but I decided to do that this episode.
Thank you.
I feel like you deserve a formal introduction.
Appreciate that.
If you've tuned in, last time we were outside, which we have realized is not the best idea. We were back in the studio. Wind was not our friend that day, nor were helicopters for no reason flying over our head. So we're back in the studio. We were able to see practice today, and from the jump, something that caught my attention is I've reported on this every open practice we've had, which center is working with which quarterback. Initially, I was taken back. Josh Sills was working with the centers. For a while, I thought he was kind of messing with us. You know, something was going on there, but no, it's a thing. Neal Brown addressed it today. Chase Barron had struggled a little bit after the first scrimmage, so they moved Josh over to center. He has that versatility to bounce back and forth. Right now, they have 4 guys they trust. They're trying to find a 5th, and whether that means moving different round combinations to have Josh at center, Josh at guard, remains to be seen. The last spot is kind of a battle between Chase, John Hughes, who's really come on, who was the junior college offensive lineman they added in May, and Adam Stilley has a chance, former walk-on who's performed well. So that's what you're looking at on the offensive line. That immediately caught my attention, though. I really did initially think they were just pranking us a little bit. Maybe Josh jumped in and was doing some stuff, but it was real. He is getting some work at center. Played there in high school, so there's a familiarity level. His personality kind of fits that too. He's really outgoing. So at this point, that's what they got to do on the offensive line. They've got to find that one guy, and whether that combination comes from, you know, Hughes being in and Josh at center, or Chase being in and Josh at guard, they're going to have to figure that out, and that's what they're really focusing on with that unit moving into the second scrimmage, which is going to be Friday night. We had 30 minutes today. Nothing groundbreaking, you know, no 11 on 11 during the 30 minutes we could report on. So not necessarily anything that blew you away. One thing we did get to see for the first time, though, was the punter, the Australian punter, Josh Groden. Patrick and I both observed what he did. Patrick, what kind of stood out to you?
I mean, what stood out to me, obviously, he's the Australian punter. Really, he has a tremendous kick. He got off some beauties there today. Really tight spiral on those footballs. It's just a clear difference from what they had before. Now those other 2 guys are working. Leighton Bechtel, Colt McGee, those other 2 guys are working behind him. But you can just tell, this guy's experience, he has that SEC experience like I had mentioned. He's definitely going to have an impact. Field position is going to be huge. Let's face it. It's always, special teams has been a weakness for the past few years. Flipping the field position is going to be huge. He has been successful, especially last year at pinning guys deep, pinning the other team deep. So I'm interested to see what kind of impact he'll have this year. But he looks good. He looked really good today.
Yeah, left-footed punter, was getting good hang time from what we were able to observe. Thought it was interesting. Every time before he kicks, he spins the ball. So I don't know if that's an Australian thing or what, but it was really interesting to me. Other than that, guys were banged up. That happens this time of camp. Everybody was practicing today, with the exception of Drayshawn Miller, who still is recovering from an injury. Neal has already said that's not a serious injury, so we'll see what develops there. But I did see TJ Banks back on the field. A lot of other guys. We have a full report on WVSports.com, but everybody that was supposed to be practicing for the most part was practicing, either in a limited basis or full. So that's a good sign this time of camp. If you're going through camp at this point, that healthy, knock on wood for those out there rooting for West Virginia, that's a good sign. I think that they've gotten what they wanted, and some of that stems back to what Neal Brown talked about in the spring. They want their players off the ground, clean practices, and it's leading to less injuries so far. Again, I hope I did not jinx anything. Moving forward to what Neal had to say today, the thing that stood out to me the most, I asked about the quarterback competition, and he said it's been up and down, they're getting close. Later it was further elaborated that he really hopes to have an idea. I'm not going to say he's going to name the starter. He stopped short of saying he's going to name the starter, but he hopes to have an idea of who's going to start after the scrimmage Friday night. I think that could be key. He said from the beginning, he, Sean Reagan, the rest of the offensive coaches have made it clear that when they know, they will know. They'll have an idea of who wants to start. That has not made itself clear yet. All those guys are still battling. I think it's going to be really interesting to see what news trickles out from this scrimmage. Which guy takes the reins. Which guy is the eventual starter, because they've all had moments. Brown's highlighted every single one of them. All four guys. Trey Lowe in the last scrimmage was the most productive quarterback. Mm-hmm. And then you go down the list of some of the other guys that have had their struggles and have had positives. So that's fall camp. You're trying to sort that out. You're trying to get an idea of what is next for this football team.
I want to go back to Neal Brown. I thought one thing that he mentioned that I thought was pretty interesting was the employment of the S-back, too, with a couple tight ends hurt. Among those is T.J. Banks. He said Michael Laughlin's starting to make strides, but employing the S-back, those gritty players such as Logan Timmons. I thought that was kind of interesting how he might be using those for the time being in the offense more, with the tight end, sir. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, a dinosaur position, true fullback type. These are the type of guys that are just going to block. You might slip them out of the backfield every once in a while for catch nobody expected, but their whole job is to fit the run, be tough, and kind of fill that role in the football team. And I think personnel is dictating this more, like you mentioned, injuries more than necessarily what they want to do. But I think by the time the season rolls around, what's going to be really interesting is how can they do what they want to do. How much two-back can they use? How much two tight ends can they use? Or can they use two tight ends? Are two guys going to be healthy? So that's going to be something to really pay attention to. Kicking over to the coordinators, we were able to talk to them today too. Talked a little bit more about the offensive line. I think that right now it is what it is, as we mentioned earlier. On defensively, I think defensive line is the position that almost seems like it's becoming the most comfortable, confident that the coaches are in.
I'd say so.
A lot of buzz there. They want to get 9 guys playing, and I think that West Virginia's getting to that point, which is further along than you thought. This scheme kind of fits their body types. That's what Neal addressed as well. They're smaller guys, more agile, more athletic, and they want them to get upfield and make tackles. They aren't necessarily just going to fit the run. They're not going to try to be a placeholder so all the second level, third level guys can make tackles. These guys are going to be asked to be active, be disruptive, and they have to be a good unit, or West Virginia's going to struggle defensively. That's what Coordinator Vic Koenning made clear. So other than that, guys, we got player interviews tomorrow. Patrick, anything else you think we're leaving out here?
I just think it's very interesting with Matt Moore, what he said, going back to the offensive line, and Adam Stilley. That's a name that he mentioned over the spring, that guy that was kind of surprising him. Now, he kind of lacks the ideal height for a center, but he's been extremely consistent, according to head coach Neal Brown, as well as Moore. He said he lacks the height, but for Moore to say that he would feel comfortable plugging into the game right now, I feel like that says a lot about how far he's come along. And I feel like he's definitely going to be in the mix to kind of be that fifth guy, as well as John Hughes. But I think that's very interesting that a guy that kind of, I don't want to say came out of nowhere, but he kind of did almost. He said he lacks that height, but he's grown. Seems like his confidence has grown. Has been extremely consistent. Center position is going to be huge. Like I said, that's a big position, arguably one of the most important positions on the offensive line. So obviously they need someone they can trust there. Stilley could be that guy, could be Josh Sills, could still be Chase Barrett. I don't know. Let's see. We're going to see how that plays out.
I did think it was interesting they mentioned a Wildcat. They worked some Wildcat packages. Yeah. And Martell Pettaway was the guy, not Kennedy McCoy, who made a living off that 2 years ago. Very successful. If you remember the Oklahoma game, the results weren't successful, but he was successful in that package. So I think that's kind of an interesting development in itself. Focus now is going to be from Scrimmage 1 to Scrimmage 2. You've got to make the most improvement you can as a team. They're going to kind of break up Wednesday. That'll be the end of fall camp and go into getting ready for the season. The season is almost here, guys. Depth chart's going to sort itself out. After this second scrimmage, the coaches are going to sit down, iron out who's playing, who's not, which guys are they going to redshirt, which guys are going to play and still redshirt with the new rule that allows you to play 4 games. Where the depth chart sets, will we have a quarterback competition settled? That's obviously the question on most people's mind.
Well, there's always a plan.
yeah, there is a plan. So
always a plan.
I do think that the next week and a half could be very interesting. I'll be interested to see how they release that information, how it gets trickled out when those decisions are made. But Thank you for tuning in once again. I hope you enjoy this. We'll be back tomorrow after player interviews. That is our final media availability for the next few days. We'll have Neal Brown next Tuesday, I believe, so we'll have another one then as well. Might be taking your questions and answers. We'll decide. But thanks for tuning in again. This has been another episode of Musings from the Mountains.